3, 2, 1. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back, boys and girls, and how are we doing today? Alright. So let me get everything set up here, and we got some stuff to talk about, and we're going to have a great day. And I know I'm cheating today. I'm cheating. I don't have coffee. It's an English breakfast tea. Over 300 years of experience. I thought they were going to say excellence. Twinnings, Irish breakfast tea. Whew. So yes, let me get things set up. Pop up chat. Select all. Copy. Copy. Yes. Go over here to the doobly-doo and paste. Alright, chat is live. Sorry about the little bit of background noise. I have some stuff printing over here on the 3D printer. Today I'm going to be setting up everything on the Facebook group to start the final naming process. Yes. Let me get this shared around to the Book of Faces and such. Got my clipboard. Yeah, I have a lot of things going on today. Where is that clicking? Yeah, well, let's go over here. Delete that. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I think we're all good. All good? All good. Eileen, good morning! You're here! How are you? Seeing you on here anymore is like citing the Loch Ness Monster or something. So, yes, today is going to be the final naming process, or sorry, semi-final naming of the 3D printer. No Cade visits this morning, so I'm here. Sundays have been our day with each other. Since I'm finishing up the final the final pieces of my first large project, it's time to put this whole naming thing to bed. And get a name for this guy. That's cute though that you have a day together. But it interferes with our coffee time. Sadness. I'm in a great mood today. Which is weird because I didn't get like a whole lot of sleep. I got like 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. And after this project, I'm going full speed on Christmas stuff. So what the 3D printer is working on now, yeah. He had a long day with the girls and a swim meet all day yesterday, so I'll see him tomorrow or later today. Well, that's good. Man, I miss swim meets. They were always so much fun. Yeah, it's cute we have a day with each other. That is cute. Eileen. Hey, Mick. Good morning. So this is the last... this is the first project of the 3D printer. First main project, large project of the 3D printer. It was 19 schools yesterday. That's a big meet. That's a big swim meet. I miss swim meets. So, here it is. I'm getting the last couple pieces printed. It's Death Trooper. So I got that piece there. Now it's printing the mirror to this piece. Each of these pieces are taking like 25 hours to print. It's got to sit something like that. Somewhere. Goes right on the nose. Or something like that. But, anyways. Hello. Good morning, Ken. How are we doing today, brother? So this is the last big project, and then everything at home is switching over to Christmas stuff. So hopefully I can work out some things and, get some... That's so cool. Thank you. So, 19 schools. That's a huge meet. Nice. Thank you. Eileen, you need to tell Chris to stop hurting himself. Bruising and cuts. That's part of the job. I get cut. That's so cool. Morning, Ken. Morning, everyone. Yeah. So yeah. After this is done, on to Christmas crap. I'm being featured in a new store, which is the vape shops two of my buddies run, Ken and Corey. It is Union Vapor, or 570 Union Vapor, Union Vapor. It's in Dixon City. So they wanted a bunch of knives, so I have about I'll have 6 to 8 knives for them later this week. Some of us like the bruises and cuts, so it shows all the hard work we put in. Yes. She knows. So first off, I'm doing those railroad spike knives, and they're going to those guys. And then I'm thinking I'm going to do a bunch of like bottle openers. Get some thicker bar stock and stretch out the faces of them. And do some bottle openers like that. Get that going. Oh yeah, and the reverse side. Yeah, 25 hours to print those 2 face pieces each. Yikes. What kind of knives? So I have 3 skull knives. They're all railroad spike knives. I'm doing different types of, blade styles and stuff. So they're all slightly different. So I have 3 skulls. I'm working on 3 rams, and then I'm going to try and do a dragon. So for most of them, I'm just doing a twisted handle and flattening the sides a little bit so it's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more ergonomic. But then on the dragon one, so those are all going to be like $30. That's pretty much what I see them going online for. Nice and easy. I figure if I get those in there soon, some people will pick those up for Christmas. Should be good. But once I get that done, I'll do the dragon knife, which I might even just do a whole TikTok on, just doing that knife in particular, because it starts off as the same as a ram's head. You split the horns, you draw them out together, and then once they get to a certain point, you split those apart and then draw them out individually. And then the face is slightly different. You want it more, you want the face, the rams you want a little bit more square. So the dragon you're going to want a little bit more, and draw that mouth out some. And the horns, instead of being, twisted and then curled, I think we're going to twist them and then kind of do like a tuning fork or wishbone type shape to them. And then the eyes are going to be a little bit deeper set. Dragon knife, yes. And then the handle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and thin that out more. And then on the flats, you make a slit going down the center. And then, so for a cube twist, you then cut in at the angles from those to those cut lines in the center of the flats. And then when you twist it, it looks like, a bunch of cubes or something going up the twist. For a dragon scale pattern, you go, instead of straight in, you go up at an angle. And you work those around. And then when you give that a twist, it'll give the appearance of dragon scales. We're at 78%. I already had an issue yesterday afternoon with the nozzle clogging slightly, so the things and stuff. They start out looking like demons before he shapes the horns. Looks cool, right? It is really cool. Like once you have that basic shape of pulling those horns out just a little bit and splitting them, there are so many different places where you can take that. It's really fascinating. Like I think if I don't draw them out quite so far, I can also make them into like a billy goat. Or perhaps if I flatten them and then do chisel cuts to start pulling off pieces. Now this would be really difficult. I think I'd have to do this with a torch, and I'd have to do like most of the knife before I start doing this part. But I think I can do stag horns too, because once I get those drawn out, maybe an inch and a half, and then flatten them, and then I can do like little points for a stag or something. I would definitely need to do that with a torch though, because once those pieces start getting so small, they would just burn up in the forge. Doesn't matter which forge, even the gas forge I think would just burn those right off. I think I can do a stag. Somebody would definitely buy that. And just because that would be so much different and more difficult, that one would probably have a price tag of like $50. So you have the skulls, you have the rams, and then you have a dragon. And then if I have time, I don't know if I will. So the thing about railroad spike knives is they're a low carbon, they're mild steel, which if you think about it makes sense. Even the high carbon ones, are just slightly higher carbon for heavier impact areas, but they're not hardenable steel. So really, they're just a pretty art piece, is what they are. But what I'm thinking is maybe I'll take, because I have a piece of 1090 left, just a small like little piece like that. maybe what I'll do is I will take one of those railroad spikes, cut the tip, and forge weld that back onto itself, draw it out, put a slice in it, and then forge weld a piece of 1090 in there and draw that out and make a functioning railroad spike hatchet. So the end that you would hammer in would be the spike head that you'd hammer in. So you keep that look to it. I don't want to modify the look too much so you can still tell it's a railroad spike. I think I'm gonna... I don't know why this whole idea is like taking over my consciousness. But anyways, I may or may not do that. We'll see. Yeah, that would be a very... Yeah, I may or may not do that. I mean, if I really wanted to get nuts with it, I could even turn that back piece into a ram's head. You laugh in the face of diversity. Yes, I do. Because I'm nuts. But so I want to get those knives out and get those shipped out to that store so I can get featured. But if I have a little bit of extra time this week, I have a bet I need to finish. But if I have a little extra time, perhaps what I'll do is... yeah, maybe I'll make some bottle openers or something. Yeah, just something fun, easy. Maybe we'll do skulls on the bottom of those two, turn them into a thing. I don't know. Get some like 1-inch bar stock or something, cut them into pieces. And I also want to start offering classes at the forge. Not sure on the price, but I think I want to do 3 different classes. And I only want to have them as 3 or 4 people per class, and I think so that way I can actually like everybody could it's not just me demonstrating stuff for money, which I would love, but it's actually me talking about it and showing things to people. So I think the first thing I want to do is like a little curled pendant, and maybe in that project we'll do 2 different things, or in that class we'll do 2 different things. So we'll do a curled pendant and maybe like a short little toaster or something, so that they can curl the thing, and then that way they can have a pendant they can wear, and then maybe like a toasting fork or something with like marshmallows, and they can take a piece and draw out the neck of it and make it a little fine and pretty, and then split the tongs and draw those out individually. Teach them how to use the wood, charcoal, and coal in those, and then also teach them how to use the gas forge. Can you make vape cases to hold juices and extra batteries? Definitely. I could make those out of wood or leather. Out of steel I could, but that would be quite prohibitive. But yeah, I can definitely make cases and stuff out of wood and leather, depending on exactly what the person is looking for and what type of aesthetic they're going for. I can definitely do cases for stuff. Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So the classes. So do the toasting fork and stuff, and that'd just be one class. And then we could switch over to the next class, which would be making their own thing out of a railroad spike. Just for simplicity's sake, I'd probably do it with the railroad spike, but we do the skull shape. because that's just a very basic thing, very basic shape. And see how twisting the heavier stock is, and they get to do a little bit of sculpting, and then they get to forge out this. I think the third class would be, what would your curriculum look like? Week 1 safety, week 2 hammering, week 3 battle royale. I would have it all as they would be 2-day classes. So day 1 would be talking about all the safety and using the different things, and maybe one small project. So it'd be like a 2-day just basic introduction to blacksmithing, basically. So it'd be, hey, welcome in. This is it. Tell them about all the different things. Show them how to set up the forge. How to pump it, how it operates, and then we would do the first small pendant. And if there's time, everyone does a little pendant that day. If not, the next day they can go in and do the pendant first thing, and then draw out the fork. The second one would be another 2-day class, but it'd just be one project, which would be doing that railroad spike knife. So it'd only be like 3 people in there, 4 people in there, so wouldn't be a whole lot. It'd be mostly people standing around looking, and only one person at a time would be behind the thing, and everybody else would just be watching. And then for the third class, so these are each 3 different 2-day classes. And then the third class would be something more advanced. I'm not exactly sure where we would take that. And I think that would just be, actually I do, I think that would be making a real knife. And that would just be a blacksmith's knife. So you take just a piece of stock, you do half hammer blows off about midway on the piece to draw it out, and then you draw out the handle into a nice long thing, and you kind of round that out, and you get that wrapped back around. And then you take the other piece that you didn't mess with yet, and you draw that out into your blade, flatten it, so it's all one piece of steel. It's actually a super easy project, considering. And from there, you just you do the tempering, you do the thing. And I think in the summer, I would like to offer a much longer class about building a high quality knife, which would be a whole week, which would basically be building daggers. And we would start off the first thing doing the first day doing arrowheads. We would do like a couple bodkin arrowheads, which are very simple. Basically, you just take a piece of steel and you draw it out into a taper, and then you put it over onto the fullering jig, and you do a little fuller around the whole thing, and then you nip it, and you flatten that whole back section out, and then you curl that back section into a cone, which is where you put the shaft of the arrow, and there's your bodkin point. Bing, bang, boom. And then after that, working with some high carbon steel to make it like a nice dagger. So that'd be drawing out the steel, flattening it, making a guard that would go onto it. Having connection issues. Pentella sucks. I'll catch you next week. All right, Ken. You take care, brother, and I hope you have a good week. Hope the weather doesn't get too bad. I know there was a lot of fog yesterday, so watch out for idiots. It's getting to be that time of year. They come out in droves. Ken, mine is doing the same thing if you're getting the refresh circle. Let me check my end. Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. That sucks. So it looks like it might be on my end, actually. Because of course it is. So the summer class would be a week-long class instead of a 2-day class. So you make the dagger. And then you take that dagger, you make the furniture for it, basically. So you take the tang, you draw the tang out. You do the hardening and tempering, and then you make the guard for it, and then you take that guard, you make the handle for it, and then you make the bolster for it. It'd be a screw down bolster. So the actual blade, the bladesmithing part of it would only be about a day, maybe 2. But then building the furniture, then building the guard, the pommel, then doing the hand, test your weapon in a duel. Oh yeah, that would go for great. And then doing a sheath for it, polishing it. That stuff is what takes the most time for bladesmithing. But so that would be a much longer class. So it'd probably be a week for everyone to go through all the steps and all the motions. But you get to leave with a dagger that you built. So I think that would be a fantastic thing. And that's just my basic ideas. I don't know if I will do these classes all the time. Oh, I've been looking for these right in front of my face. They could have bit me. So I don't think I would do these classes all the time. Let me clean this out. But if I offer these starter classes maybe once a month or once every 2 months, and then this bigger class on the other month, I should be able to get at least a steady flow of people in there doing to do some jewelry, some practical items, some simple knives, some daggers, and maybe once a year maybe I'll switch it from dagger to axe back and forth. Because the axe is actually going to be... The axe is much more labor intensive than the dagger, but there's less finishing work. So maybe balance it like that. I don't know. Little things. Thoughts, ideas. Because it's not the miners that got rich in the gold rush. It was the guys who supplied shovels and pans. They were the ones who got rich. And I don't think I'll ever get rich, but I definitely want to have a little bit of spinning cash in my pocket, But I think doing classes like this would be good. Not just for money, but just get people interested in things and start those creative juices flowing in people's brains. When I did the thing at Penn State, I had a bunch of people asking about, if they can work for me or if they can do classes or stuff. So I think that would be a good thing just to tap into that. The biggest thing would be the legalese, the disclaimer, and outlining exactly what each class would be doing. And, of course, it'd be recommended to go through each class in succession. And I'd have to do a video on doing each project before I do the classes. But do a little bit of drawing things out, a little bit of forge work, make something pretty. I think people would really get into that, and it would be I think it'd be very well received. Yeah. And do something like $40 or something per person per class. So it'd be $160 for the class if I get 4 people in there. $80 a day. It's not gonna really flush out my bank, but it's a 2-day class, and then the next week it's a 2-day class, and then the next week it's a 2-day class. It doesn't really impact my workflow all that much, and it would be a pretty good thing. It's a very introduction, getting your feet wet type of thing. And I do have a bunch of anvils and stuff that I can get set up, for people. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 anvils. 4 anvils? Or do I have 5? One, 2, 3, 4. What ages would be best for this class? I'd say anywhere. I'd say 15 years and up. 15 years old and older. Just because I know there are some 10-year-olds out there, some 12-year-olds out there who would be very good and very mature and very mindful of what they're doing. Not most of them. So I think the cutoff would be 15 years old for the first 3 classes. And I think for the dagger, for the advanced class, I think that would be an 18-year-old limit. Yeah. Just because, a small knife is one thing, but building a dagger, first off, you need to be a lot more mature to be able to handle, going through all these different steps and phases, because it's not just all smith, swinging hammers. You can easily get a 15-year-old to have that in their mindset that they're going to forge this whole thing out almost perfectly to shape with very little grinding. But when you're doing the more advanced stuff, there's a lot less hammering and a lot more tweaking, finessing, and such. So, yeah, I think for the advanced class it's 18, hard cutoff on that. For the other classes, about 15. And that would be kind of a soft. Like, I think my nephew could do the other classes just fine. The other piece of that face is at 80%. So I'm definitely going to be taking all the naming suggestions that I've gotten over on this. That is going to be a Facebook poll today, and that'll be a 24-hour poll. and then that'll get kicked over to Patreon, so my Patreons can go vote on a final name for this guy, because he is putting in work. I mean, these face pieces are 25 hours a piece. This here was 22 hours. These 4 pieces here were 40 hours, 20 hours, 20 hours, 22 hours. So this little 3D printer's put in the work. And as much as I love helmets, there actually is a reason for doing these. This one is just a big test piece because it's a lot of big open surfaces that are easy to finish with a lot of places with a little bit finer detail, so I can do stuff. But the next helmet I do is going to be a lot more advanced than this, and then I'm going to take that and translate it from plastic into steel. And then from steel into something that's going to be a lot more interesting. It's got to have electric components in it and data. That's going to have to be talked about. Well, for this is just a test bed. So once this is done, we're going to be putting some work into getting this little tool a name. It definitely deserves a name. So I'm going to be working on getting that curriculum and stuff and all the paperwork for that class involved, written the next couple of days, and that shop that wants to feature me, Union Vapor, over in Dixon City, they were super interested in having that, in promoting me, not only my artwork but also the classes, and I think some of those guys were going to take the classes as well. So, yeah. So I think once I get this, all this framework done, I'm going to start trying to do posters. I'm going to start reaching out to Penn State, Johnson College, and put flyers and stuff up and out for that. I'm going to have to look at the calendar, make sure I get dates that have no other interference in it, and that way I can start, working this whole thing out. And there's nothing better than bringing the joy of forging to people. A million messages. What metal would you introduce to them first? Well, the forging classes would all be steel, particularly mild steel. We'd probably start off with 3/8, some 3/8 bar stock or something. So yeah, that would all just be steel. So for the pendant, it would be steel pendant, it'd be steel toasting fork, which would be mild steel. Then the next piece would be, I think we would use let's see, for the next wing we would do the railroad spikes, which is mild steel, but it's heavy. It's a very easy and difficult to work with at the same time. Because it's so thick that it holds the heat very well and for a very long time, so it gives you more time to, futz with things. But at the same time, twisting and drawing out the blade is very laborious. How do you connect the pieces together? For the helmet or for doing the class? Because each thing kind of builds on the next with the classes. So working with thin stock, working with longer stock, figuring out different techniques, doing the blade, doing the railroad spike, doing a real blade, and then all of that information translates directly into doing the dagger for the longer class. For the helmet, for this one, everything is just, I did a little bit of CA glue, a couple dabs, just to tack everything together, which by itself holds pretty well. But then what I'm doing with this is I have this 3D pen here, which is, this is originally just a novelty thing. And a friend's mom got it for her. She never used it, so she gave it to me because she knew I was interested in doing 3D printing at some point, and it just sat in a box for like 3 years with me. But what I'm doing with it is I'm heating it to 200 degrees, which PLA melts at 190. And I'm just going through and either filling large gaps, which isn't super structural, but I'm also at the surface going in little circles, which is melting the existing PLA, which this is PLA, not ABS or any of those other materials. And it's combining it with the filament that I'm using. So it's actually forming a physical bond and not just a chemical bond like with the CA glue. And I'm just going through and sanding these down. I may do a different method in the future. That's why I'm doing this here, because this is just a test bed. And I have no real connection to Death Troopers or Stormtroopers, but they're easy helmets. The only thing that would be easier would be a Mandalorian helmet, but I want to get this right first on a test piece before I do something near and dear to my heart. So, like when that other piece is done, what I'm going to do is clean up all the supports and stuff, and then run a bunch of dabs of CA glue around all these pieces, and glue the face together first, and work all those seams, and get this as nice as possible, and then take this and glue all around the perimeter of that. Get this glued onto here, and then go through and like do the welding and stuff with the 3D pen. This still has some cleanup to do on the inside. I try to clean up the insides as best as I can first before gluing it together, because these will be a lot harder to mess with once it's all together. Why did my phone turn on? Weird. Anyways, so just order of operations is basically what I'm learning, and I'm able to test out a bunch of different techniques. I'm also trying to teach myself how to use Blender to start working and creating my own 3D models. That is not going so well, but it's just kind of a side thing. Ideally, what I'll be able to do in the future is to take these 3D prints, either from other people or from myself, and use them as models to build, like in the form of the next helmet, I'm going to build a steel version of that helmet using the 3D printed one as my model and where I measure things from, measure things against. But I'd also like to do what's called lost PLA casting, which basically you take like a piece like this, a complex part, and you sink it into some plaster. You let it cure, and you fire cure the plaster, and you tip the whole thing over, and the PLA, which is this stuff, it's the same process as lost wax casting. They've been doing this for thousands of years. So you let the PLA drip out, and I'm going to have sprues and stuff on it. That's all casting stuff. And I have all the pieces to build a casting furnace. Melt my metal, and then cast it into that void. So I could start doing like aluminum pieces, copper pieces, brass, bronze. Won't be able to do steel or iron. It melts at way too high a temperature for me to do safely with the equipment I have, or even in the space that I have. But baby steps. I don't think I'll ever get into casting iron, but doing stuff like this out of aluminum, I think that would be really cool. But yeah, so this is just a nice little test bed for me to get into the whole thing of getting all these pieces together, made, done. Because not only is it for translating into metal pieces, but also if I want to have a bunch of, like if I'm doing rings or something, I'm going to have to figure out how to print and get all these things together in a certain way. So that when I do cast them, it's not just one ring at a time. I can cast a whole bunch of rings all at once. So it's a very involved project. There's a whole lot involved in all of this. Is it a Connor hat? Yes and no. He's both excited to wear it and hates it at the same time. Mostly because it's so big that his head just sinks. Like, this is actually, without padding, it's too big for me. Put it on, and it's supposed to sit about here. And what ends up happening is, now I can't see dick. So, it is not a Connor hat. He thinks it's cool and he thinks it's funny to wear it until he wears it. He's no longer happy. So, if I'm going to print one for myself, I'd have to measure his head and then downscale it. The good thing about doing that is I could do it all as one monolithic print. Yes, it would take like 40 hours to print it. However, it would just be one piece. It can be a Connor hat. So once I do that smaller print, yes, it can definitely be a Connor hat. 81%. And we're sitting at 22 hours and 6 minutes. So this is a much slower printing method, but this was a very cheap printer for me. I got it secondhand from a friend, so I can't complain about the print speed. I think I got it for like $300, and it came with 3 rolls of filament. It's not too bad. Actually, it's not bad at all. And after this piece is done, I have 4 more pieces. Will that finish printing before the end of the live stream? No way. We have 7 minutes left, and this probably has at least 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours left. Even the small things I do, like Ahsoka here, she took, I think it was like 16 hours or something. Just for Ahsoka, about 16 hours. This side here took about 25 hours. I mean, it's a nice, really detailed part. And now that I'm seeing it in the black filament, I wish I did this whole thing in the black filament, because Death Troopers they're black anyways. I know it doesn't really matter because this is going to get filler and sanded and then painted several coats of paint. But still, look at that. That looks a lot nicer than that. baby steps, learning. Plus, the orange was free. It came with the machine. Yes, so, and then I have the rebreather parts, which go into this recess and bulk this out, which will be another. The slicer says 4 hours, but it'll probably be something about 6 to 7 hours, maybe 8 hours. But yeah, a lot of learning going on. And these parts, they're very durable. Like, they can take a hit, which is really fascinating to me. How durable this is when it just turns from this thin, floppy, crappy plastic thing. Very, like, this helmet feels substantial. Even though I know it's mostly empty, it's feels heavy, it feels real, which is mind-blowing to me. But and once I get those mouthpieces on, and what kind of padding will go into it? That's a great question. EVA foam. So this is a thin 1/4 inch piece. I have some 1/2 inch pieces up at the shop that I'm going to get. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue all this in. I'm gonna draw all the padding in where in marker in here on the inside of the helmet, because this stuff takes marker very well, almost too well. You can see, all the stuff I was marking up on it to get the lines and stuff. And I'm going to take barge cement, EVA foam. It's just cheap foam. What I use for the padding in my shoes, actually. But this is like cosplayer's foam. Very soft, very cushy, very nice. Very easy to build up, and it takes barge cement super well, which is a contact cement. So I'd go through and mark out where I want the padding. So I'm going to want a central strip. I'm going to want padding around the neck, probably some padding around above the ears, maybe a strip this way, and I'll just put it in piece by piece until the helmet sits right on my head, which will also help dampen a lot of the sound. And then if I wanted to, I could run the electronics. I think this is just going to end up being a shell, and I'm going to finish paint, put a visor in on it, and call it good. So this will just be a pretty looking piece that you can put on. The next one, in addition to looking pretty, 82%, at 22 hours and 12 minutes. The next one will have some electronics in it, some lights, maybe a radio and a fan for cooling, just to suck air out. But then I'm going to be actually trying to develop something commercial from that, which is going to have lights, Bluetooth, radio, hearing protection, hearing enhancement and protection, have air filtering, have a cooling system, and have light changing visor, as well as flashlights. And that's where I'm translating it from a piece of plastic to a metal piece, and then from that metal piece into something that is a very high-tech piece of equipment. that people have expressed a lot of interest in purchasing these bespoke pieces from me, and for several reasons. But baby steps, learning. We have to walk. We have to crawl before we can walk. And we have to walk before we can run. That's the hour. So, yeah, smithing classes, 3D printing, and some very lofty aspirations. Anyways, guys, if you appreciate this and you'd like to see more, go, subscribe to the channel. Go over to the Facebook. That's where I have my I do a lot of my updates. I'm on TikTok as well under Knightsmith Official. If you want to just support this channel and try and see me grow and see me grow faster, go over to patreon.com/Knightsmith. Even $1 a month helps. And it really does help. Yeah, so that's the hour. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And thank you for helping make this world better. One kerf at a time. I'll see y'all later.